Hello and welcome to the app station. I was in the mood to talk a little about this past Eurovision season for whoever will have me, and if that whoever is you, I'd be very pleased. Whenever applicable, I'll also tell you whether I would have wanted a different song to have sent. I think 2025 is a solid C tier year. There are a lot of entries I just think are fine, but the best of the year are really, really good. I love how much linguistic diversity this year has and hope that continues into 2026 and beyond. Anyway, let's get into it.
Beyond abysmal.
I don't want to talk about this. I could skip it, but I believe there are things that need to be said so that we are all on the same page. New Day Will Rise is not a legit televote winner on an analytical level. It's so poorly made. It's less than a nothing burger. It's a net negative burger because the mental bandwidth it uses outweighs what precious little value can be found here. It's a musically unspecial, broken English Latin platitude fest performed by someone who can't fucking sing. I'm still at a loss for words for how COD could create a song without any regard for the performer's vocal ability and not realize that it would be a problem until rehearsals. Yuval was a DEI hire, let's face it. She was chosen not based on talent, but to more effectively peddle propaganda and to more easily deflect criticism. That, in a way, makes her very similar to Yulia Samarlova. And all of this is not counting the disgraceful way the televote was instrumentalized this year. And before Sombosa says anything, yes, what was done was technically within the rules. However, it was an obvious exploit that the EBU, in lieu of actually doing the right thing, should do something about. The EBU has made reactive changes many times before. Sweden didn't break the rules in 1965 when they sent Absent Friend. The juries in 1969 didn't break the rules when they happened to produce a four-way tie. Eastern European voters didn't break the rules by existing and annoying Terry Wogan in the 2000s. But the EU, nevertheless, introduced the original language rule, tiebreakers, and reintroduced juries after these incidents. Something similar should be done here too. Should anyone else run a national final have been sent? Well, no one should have been sent because Israel has no place in the contest.
I never found you funny. I never found you entertaining. I never found you smart. I just found you annoying.
Out of the frying pan into the fire in it? Yeah, freedom sucks. It's musically more interesting than New Day Will Rise, that I will give it, but it still has similarly broken English, and all those musically interesting elements go to waste on a propaganda song. And the fact that they're literally reciting the Georgian alphabet is so worthy. Like, who would even incorporate an alphabet like that? Oh, okay, so based on the pattern here, I think it might say less than flattering things about the country pulling this kind of stunt. Obviously, Nina Iris should have been sent instead. Let's move on. I will admit that even though I believe that Azerbaijan is a genocidal state that has no place at Eurovision, I can't help but laugh at the recent efforts rather than be horrified like with the other active problem child. Azerbaijan forgot that their objective should be to peddle propaganda and buy votes, and having cast into a Kia asylum of their own making, run by a Nepo baby generator that spits out semen retention warriors, and now Mickey Mouse over here. I just find that hysterical. I'm sorry if that makes me morally corrupt. Run With You is also unremarkable. It's practically just a lobotomized Daft Punk song, and the vocal nuked any chance it had of connecting with the little niche audience it might have had. Anyway, now on to the actual televote winner.
Shout out to Conor McGregor.
I do not like Tommy Cash. I do not. I do not respect anyone who thinks shouting out a convicted rapist is a funny joke. Satire requires a clarity of purpose, and I do not like his fanbase that kept marketing him as a voice for people who distrust the EBU. Oh, the fake stage invader will carry a protest sign in the final! Why would you put this much stake into a smug centrist actually doing something? Do you also believe that Tommy Cash has produced a secret good fourth Sherlock episode? The closest he came to critiquing the contest in any meaningful manner was when he unintentionally exposed an especially egregious example of Fury misogyny.
Ew!
Tommy Cash is by no means the only artist I have issues with this year, but unlike most of the others, Espresso Macchiato is just so devoid of quality that I can't help but get caught up on all this shit surrounding it. The song was catchy, and he knew how to play to his audience, and he should have had a split screen. But these things can't get him any further than this. I'm sorry. And Marlon should have gone instead.
Whopper, 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 whopper.
I really don't know what I can work with here. Mila is a tremendously dated song and the first of several unintentionally funny stagings this year by a very questionable artist. I didn't follow PCE, but Harem Girls should have gone instead, even though I think the criticisms of Aladdin as Orientalist are completely fair. It is funny that Mila is serious whereas the result, too.
If you were a loved one was diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
How much time do we have left was dead on arrival, and I'm a little ashamed that I deluded myself into thinking otherwise after rehearsals. When the fandom would rather talk about you doing blackface than about your song, that's a bad sign. This just doesn't hook me, and the English second language ass lyrics are just sloppy and jarring for this subject matter. Rai should have gone instead, because at least that would have been funny. Mr. President, a second blackface incident has hit the fandom. Except people just pretend that didn't happen? Huh, weird. Isa Davis is a very dated song with a banging donk on it and a fan that kept insisting that it will make the top 10 based on rest of the world vote. Yeah, 12 points are gonna get you so far. If you got them. Benidorm Fest is so cooked that I don't know if anyone else available would have been a better option though.
N is for no survivors.
In a way, Survivor was probably a bit overheated, and it all boils down to how diabolical Beppe Lattisil was. I believe that if Survivor was chosen internally, and they just released a music video like Armenia has done in the past, it wouldn't have been received so poorly. That being said, it's not this low just because of the national final, but because it's a very manufactured bought Swedish song, complete with broken English. It's Joe Rogan music. It actually reminds me of something Azerbaijan might have sent in the 2010s. It was still the best package Debbie had to offer, however.
We're not your dolls, we're not your dolls.
I respect La Poupée Monosson more than I like it, to put it diplomatically. I get the Laura Francois and Serge Gainsbourg and so on and so forth, but I don't think they did all they could with what if Poupée de Ci, Poupée de Son a feminist? The nananas especially get to my nerves. Poupée de Ci, Poupée de Son doesn't have that. Is it supposed to mimic Francois' nasally vocals? Because that would be fucking stupid. The staging is good, of course, but whoop de fucking do. Wealthy microstate can afford good staging, fork phone in kitchen. Lusak should have gone instead. I lost a tenner betting against Total Italia qualifying. I might be bitter about that. They literally just got lucky in the semi-draw. It has a very limited niche audience. 2/3 of the points it received in the final came from one country. Ridiculous that disqualified when Stripper and Onse didn't. Whatever, it is short raw, didn't get Ross place, that I can give this. I don't care enough about San Marino Song Contest to check if there was a better option. I don't know, the Socado is cute enough, I guess, but this just doesn't stick in my mind. Good for the fans that qualified. I struggle heavily with what to say here. It's an inoffensive but unremarkable addition to this year's roster that I don't feel any particular need to revisit. Obviously, Henke should have gone instead, and the FTC jury will have to answer for their crimes.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the queeniest of them all?
Serving is a very basic girl book, carried by its wordplay, an excellent performer. Everything Mariana does is iconic, and that was reflected in her televote. 8 points because she ate. The only things she did wrong were working with a weak core package that was then further nerfed by Ofcom and then the audience mute, and being Maltese. I respect her game, but serving isn't for me, and I would have preferred Candela.
Wait, was it the
Theo Evan.
pussy attack?
Sometimes you just gotta latch onto a bad entry and make memes about it on a Discord server, and shh, is that to me. It's funny that this basic boy bop with a William Dollar staging a fantastic running order, and then ate shit because Theo Evan can sing. It's funny that he looks like Martin Österdal's long lost son, and that Christer Björkman seems so infatuated with his performance when it went so poorly. The lyrics are stupid, and the official explanation for the riddle is even stupider. It's an ironic masterpiece for the ages.
Joke on them. I find happy dog planet. In 50 years, we all go back to Earth and bite everybody. But now we dance.
The way some Eurofans talk about like a party, you'd think it killed a grandma or something. It's just a standard, not very good Scandi pop song. maybe it's not made for you. Maybe it was made for players of pan-Scandinavian dog-themed virtual world Hundepacker circa 2007-2011. And who are you to belittle that kind of fun? Bobby Arlo should have obviously been sent instead. No, Norway shouldn't have said it either. But you can't convince me that NRK didn't react from MGP because the version based there had a Norwegian intro. And why would you want to sing in Norwegian? Volevo essere udoro is passable. That's all there is to it. The lyrics, of course, are absolute cinema. However, I feel that Volevo essere udoro is a vibes over substance documentary. It has the slice of life movie soundtrack feel and the harmonica solo and the sepia filter. They absolutely build an atmosphere here, but it's not the kind of atmosphere I enjoy in Eurovision. It was the best package I've ever had.
I baked you a pie.
Oh boy, what flavor?
Flavor.
Poison Cake could have been our host entry. Don't forget that. Anyway, I have a bit of history of this entry. From thinking it was corny and bad and that the chorus sounded like Living La Vida Loca, to warming up to Malco because he seemed to have a good head on his shoulders that was being overheated by homophobic Croatians, giving some ironic enjoyment from the song in the process, to all that goodwill crumbling in the light of one of the worst crash outs of the year. I've never fucking heard the word genuflect before. When I came across that, I assumed Marco had oxymated. The staging was fun, but could only do so much. Yeah, this is funny bad, you know it. And a dirty little secret is that Dora was cooked from the start, and anything it had to offer would have been a downgrade from 2024 of biblical proportions. However, out of what was available, Lilac would have been the best option.
We're going on a trip.
Voyage is one of the entries of all time, I think. I just can't get behind the lyrics. They're too I can fix them. Oh, it's about loving yourself by struggling to do so. No matter what, I'll lie next to you tonight. Is this not her singing about a separate physical person? Am I fucking stupid? The staging was cool, but clearly didn't land for televoters. Because do you expect the people who crowned Thomas Currency to soy out over the camera being used to record Voyage? I'm not surprised about the televote result. More than anything, I'm impressed that a song can make the top 10 without any televote support.
Say the line, Bart!
What the hell just happened is also a song that exists. It's not a very streamable song in my opinion. The tempo changes require your full attention. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it's more of a trade-off where the song is more suited towards live performance to the detriment of passive listening. Pretty good vocals and staging too. Definitely one of the UK's strongest showings in recent years, even if that might be damnation by faint praise. I'm not typically the kind of person who needs to relate to a song to love it, but this is an exception. My shut-in ass can't get into this. I'm sure it has an audience, but I'm just not part of it. It is a little raw that Remember Money got 0 from the televote, but at least they kept Bosch receiving the only 12, specifically cheesy points available.
Zet de radio aan. Ik hoor Stromae met Papa Ute.
C'est la vie is decent. However, it is one of 3 entries of the year that I believe were a bit overrated at odds. I never believed it had a path to victory. Sure, it had potential to resonate with both hearers and televiewers. Yes, it's radio-friendly and accessible. But I believe too many televiewers that just falls into that trap, you know? Where a lot of people like it, but not that many love it enough to vote for it. I also think the staging was very disjointed. It just felt like Claude went from set piece to set piece with little rhyme or reason. His vocals were good when it mattered, and y'all were way too hard on him. Speaking of, I've seen some people trying to push his reaction to his televote as a new John Lundvik moment, and that just reads as extremely racially motivated. They're entirely different reactions, folks. Maybe someday people will be normal about a black artist representing the Netherlands, but unfortunately we're not there yet. Nice little song, not crazy about it, and for as harsh as it might sound, I think I prefer the version I made up in my mind when I heard from the rumor mill that it was going to be in Dutch and Lingala.
Dragon!
Gaia is good. Certainly not for everyone, but there's plenty to like here. Because, well, there's plenty in it. It's really cool to compare this with Sama, just to see how much Justina's artistic identity has evolved over the past 3 decades. The years really dropped the ball here. I believe Poland is on a good trajectory, and I hope they can keep it up in 2026 and beyond. That being said, it would have been so cool if Swada and Nichols were sent instead. If minority languages have no fans, I'm dead.
I miss my
Mom.
tails.
If I had a nickel for every time a 2025 entry in French was a tribute to the artist's mother and had a mirror-based staging gimmick, I'd have 2 nickels. Yeah, I'm not too crazy about Maman either, sorry, It just feels very flat musically. There's not much in the way of progression, and the song mostly just goes in circles. I imagine that may have been a deliberate choice to convey the circle being closed as Mom found her hope again and embraced being a mother and those sweet little things. I can respect that, but it doesn't necessarily make it all that interesting to listen to. The staging was ambitious and worked except for that one moment. Juan's vocals were good, but she didn't really emote as much as I believe the song would have required, and Wagging Yaw kind of distracted me a lot. Definitely a solid song though, and an improvement over Mon Amour. To quote the man whose ranking gimmick I ripped off wholesale, Creed stay winning, baby! As the Nomata is one of the biggest success stories of the year, and actually has some similarities with last year's 6th place in terms of its journey. Coming from an understage performance at a less than well produced national final, being dismissed as a borderline qualifier at best, then gagging everyone and getting a great result in which both years and Tilla were placed it in the same spot. Of course, the main difference is that the Stellomata staging is vastly inferior, and it was likely a combination of locals and diaspora that won people over in this case. With the well wider circumstances at play, I am glad we got a song about surviving genocide in the top 10. It's just a shame that Claudia had to diminish that effect by having an Isaac moment and complain about politics getting in the way of the contest. Whatever, good song, only viable option for ethnicals Telecos.
And what my dad thinks I'm a joke too.
Now to the second of the also overrated entries, Kiss Kiss Goodbye. I do feel quite honest. He had a bad night and could have very well have queued if his vocals were better and if he didn't miss the cue. That being said, I don't believe he was anywhere close to winning. The staging didn't really land, though I understand given Shakia's budget. I still don't know how to feel about the dance break. And I do enjoy the Bone vibes, though we've got a superior Bond vibe entry coming up. I really hope Shakia doesn't give up because of this slump they found themselves in. Oh, I was a big Wasted Love hater, and while it's still not a favorite, I did warm up to it during the week. I didn't like the under rhyme or the endless water metaphors. I didn't want the first consecutive Yuri-led win. But now I know better. For as long as the elephant in the room remains, Yuri-led wins are the only logical path, unfortunately. Another issue I had in studio was that JJ's register was so high that it was difficult to comprehend what was being sung half the time. The register wasn't quite as high and alive, which I much preferred. Another thing that helped was the grunt, and if I speak, jokes aside, it did add authenticity. Having that kind of unfiltered vocalization coming off the refined operatic vocals was really emotionally effective. A worthy winner, even if I wish the stakes around the win weren't so high. Hallucination is in fact pretty damn good. It's really funny that they set a song named Hallucination to the city where LSD was first synthesized. And Sissel, of course, is an icon with fantastic vocals. I'm really proud of her for dragging Denmark, kicking and screaming, into the final. Of course, it's a bit generic, but there's nothing wrong with it either, and it was the only logical option from DMGP.
Stop posting about baller.
Fuck Gabble. That being said, Ballad is really good. Miraculous that a national final as messy and out of touch as Chef Software gave us a song this good, let alone authentically and unapologetically German. Definitely one of the more atmospheric and effective stages of the year. However, after all this time, I still think Voyage 1 should have gone instead. If nothing else, they may not have turned out to be milkshake ducks. I have to admit something. Montenegro is one of my stand countries. It's good for your health to have that one underdog stand country, I think. It helps that Dobrodoshny is also really good. The lyrics are compelling, and the Bond vibes are immaculate. It's just a shame about the voice cracks, and the styling, and the fact that the EBU hates Montenegro. You know, some part of me wonders if La Pupi Monson was death spotted because they heard the outcry of people comparing this with the cushy running order fighter god. But good on Montenegro for not letting this showing deter them and confirming 2026 participation so quickly. Maybe if Neonoan weren't killed on the cross, they might have not been death spotted, but I think Dobrodoshi was the better option anyway. Lighter reminds me of Survivor in a way. Both were Swedish penned songs overhated primarily for their associations with a low quality national final. But as it happens, I like Ren Fair ass music far more than I like Joe Rogan music, so Lighter wormed its way into my top 10. Carlson is such a talented performer, especially for his age, and live is just a really good song. Sorry if you can't see that because you can't divorce it from the wet fart of a national final it came from. Do I even need to entertain the idea of MGP having a better option available? You know it didn't.
I am placing blocks and shit cause I'm in the fucking Minecraft.
As it happens, Lua is also a really, really good song. I like to see Shanty Vibe tasks. Vibe are obviously also really funny and great at playing to their audience with that staging. I'm so glad they kept the 100% Q rate for Emphasis and Icelandic going. Would have been really sad if they brought attention to that in Soipa only to end it. Speaking of, I don't really think Virgo would have been a better option.
This is my cum, this is my cum.
Milkshake Man was in an uphill battle from the start, unfortunately. Comparisons with a different entry, one is coming up, were unavoidable, and those comparisons usually weren't favorable. It was also, by far, the largest victim of the audience mute. Gojo wasn't great vocally, and this is hardly a deep song, but damn it, I love it nonetheless. I enjoy the cheeky energy, and the staging was fun. Let me cede the rest of my time to address a worry I see some people have. Australia won't withdraw just because they're on a non-qualified streak now. SBS is already accepting submissions for 2026, which is quite telling for them having interest in staying.
Under the sea, under the sea.
This is the final part of the Overrated and Odds trilogy. I did get a little tired of strobe lights during rehearsals because of all the hype. I can like an entry, love it either, and still think it has no chance of winning, and be weirded out if conventional wisdom says otherwise. Had it not been for those Belgian Euro fans who got a showcase of Eurosong in December and began betting based on Antessa, not Red Sebastian, Belgium would have been no higher than 15 video odds. Not to be smug, but I ended up being right. All that aside, Strobe Lights is fantastic, the vocals and vibes are great, but the staging didn't really work. Yeah, the humping moment, we've all seen it. It actually reminded me of Wild Youth's hand gimmick. They really should have brought the elevator. Matissa may well have qualified, given how few women were in Semi-1, but I think I prefer Strobe Lights either way.
She was a fairy.
Burman Limey. Jesus fuck, Burman Limey is great. I am so gagged by how well Tautomatas did. I thought it was over. I thought they'd not qualify or get steamrolled in the final, because I got my heart broken before with Fulen and Ulvaham. Not even close. Bam! Left side of the scoreboard. Bam! 3-digit jury score. Bam! Legitimate semi-2 winner. Am I hallucinating? Either way, it was so deserved. The vocals were great, the styling was great, the staging was great, the vibes were fantastic. Need a reminder that this is the second entry ever to be in Latvian, and they were rewarded so handsomely for it. Supernova 2026 is gonna slap hard. Speaking of, I do have a major soft spot for Cincinnati, but they won't get anywhere near the heights of Tautomatas.
I want my bird.
You guys really should apologize to Seafood Lot. I imagine tormenting some guys from Bumps because you have no taste. Couldn't be me. The combination of white voice and prog rock is so tantalizing, and it's so in line with you crazy approach to Eurovision, an approach that I have so much respect for. I'm still not entirely sold on the staging, but that might be because the standards for Ukrainian staging are so high. The result was more than deserved. Cry about it. I won't even entertain suggesting Masha should have been sentenced that because of what y'all did in her name.
It's like a sauna in here.
Bala Balabastu was not a flop. Kai outsold every male artist Sweden has sent since Måns. They performed a televised sing-along, Allsång på Skansen, and Axel will host the radio show Soma. Both of these are cornerstones of Swedish summer. Sweden loves Kai, even though they didn't win. And for good reason. Bala Balabastu is really fucking good. It's catchy, light-hearted fun that people understandably can't get enough of. The staging was good, even if it unfortunately lost some magic it had in Melfest. In a way, Kai got too big too quickly. It was easier to root for them when they were underdogs against Måns than it was when they were the favorites to win in Basel. I get that. What I don't get is why some people refused to vote for Barbara because they didn't want Sweden to win again. All you did was vindicate the most annoying Swedish Eurofans by proving that Europe indeed are just jealous foreigners who can't be pleased no matter what Sweden sends. Remember that the next time you see a Swedish Eurofan be xenophobic, and ask yourself if that cheeky Swedish shouldn't win a game comment was worth it. Because I have to deal with these motherfuckers. Obviously we shouldn't have sent anyone else, let alone Måns, But I think Vesla deserves an honorable mention as someone who definitely needs to return to Melfast in the future.
F is for fire that burns down the whole town.
What else can I say? It's yeah, it's fantastic. You know it is. Beatrice is such a sweet and charismatic woman. And even if Cola isn't as effortlessly charismatic, they managed to play around his nerves in a really clever way by making him look at Beatrice rather than into the camera. Cola was always needed, even if some of you called him a liability. Him and Beatrice are two sides of the same coin that is Siem, and it would simply not be Siem without Kole. The stadium looked very intriguing and was the absolute best Albania could have done with their budget. Siem is such a unique song, and it's so cool that something this unique, yet distinctly Albanian, exists and got into the top 10. Yeah, that jury score was below New Day Rise. Are you kidding me? And no, nothing if thick even head of candles to Siem. Thank you for asking. I love Tawaki so much, I don't know what to tell you. It's a new genre being represented at the contest. The vocals were good, the staging was great, the apocalyptic atmosphere is so intriguing. Lucas' expressionless, prolonged eye contact with the camera really sells the song. Him stumbling around the stage like he has a tummy ache is kind of funny out of context, but not in a way that hurts the song, like some other entries I know. I think this is an underrated victim of the audience mute. Could you imagine if everyone got to hear the crowd shouting Tabo? I think that might have allowed Catalysis to worm their way onto the left side of the scoreboard. I've got a soft spot for Luta Pudikaite, but this was the one obvious choice Lithuania had. Erika fucking Wikman, the woman you are. The love I have for Ishikome is so deep that I may never properly unpack it in a video like this. But to get started, I really enjoy the chanting. Not only is it a good call and response that the EBU shamelessly decided to neuter through the audience mute, but it also has this sort of sports stadium vibe, like fucking is a competitive sport, which is kind of funny. I like how she, in a bridge to the final chorus, sings that she's on top of you. We love a woman casually topping. The references to pre-Christian Finnish religion are really cool. The point being made with them is to reverse the narrative of sex being spiritually impure. It says that no, in fact, there's something divine in sex. You're so right. The retrofuturistic sound really works for me too, and the tempo change in the final minute that mimics how a body prepares for a climax, it's so fucking good. Why aren't you listening to this song right now? The staging, of course, is fantastic. Ericus owns that scene like the rock star she is. On the day of the grand final, I cried twice. Both times over Erika. Once because I listened to Cicciolina and thought of how far she had come. Once because I thought of how the flying mic exploded in her Semi 2 performance and how well she handled that. There's so much to be said about the professionalism and what must have been a terrifying situation. So if I was crying before the show began, can you imagine how crushed I was when the results came in? Yeah, you know what I think about what the jury did here. How do you explain not just one, but two countless juries placing the night indisputably best performance of the year dead last? Not to mention how her own country betrayed her. Ilika went through so much crap, I hope she knows she deserved better. But you know what? Austria deserved to win because at least their jury had taste. Another thing I need to address is the weird rewriting of history I've seen about Goldilocks. In the wake of Erika's result, I kept seeing people saying that Goldilocks should have been sent instead, and that she would have been a jury darling. Are you joking? Madoff won the jury by 6 points. 6 points! And you're acting as if it swept the jury. Vibe, Laura Ford, and Kyla DeSanto won their national final juries with wider margins. And how did that pan out for them? And well, there's one last thing too. Ilka has said that the message of Ishkome is that you deserve to be loved, and to love just the way you are. The former is kind of a no-brainer message, but the latter, yeah, you don't hear that quite as often. If you give love in unconventional ways, that's valid too. You shouldn't suppress those parts of yourself either. Note also how she, in the first verse, tells the listener to do whatever they want. I take these to mean that there's no right or wrong way for consenting adults to have sex. Everyone's conception of what sex is, everyone's desires and fantasies, they're all different, and that's a beautiful thing that should be cherished. It's a very important message at the best of times, let alone when we are in a time dominated by purity culture and censorship of sexual art and expression that also disproportionately targets queer artists like Erika. And she did get hit with that kind of censorship. I hope this makes it abundantly clear why I was so deflated by the result and the insinuation that sending Ishkome over Madoff was a mistake. However, people being weird doesn't take anything away from this rich, catchy, cheeky, well-performed, and dare I say beautiful song that I will continue to cherish. Thank you for sticking around for the whole video. Leave a comment or don't, I'm not your mom.